Hey, welcome to my channel. My name is Katie and this is A Whole New World. This is my husband Ed joining me for this video about sailing out of Galveston on the Disney Cruise Line.
Yes, we just got back. Been back for a few weeks. We went the second week of January 2023. And we're not talking, we'll do another video about the cruise itself because that was amazing. We had a fantastic experience. But the experience going out of Galveston was way different than going out of Florida.
Yeah. So we've sailed on 4 sailings so far out of Port Canaveral. And so that was our only frame of reference for sailing on the Disney Cruise Line. So we were interested to see what Galveston was going to be like. One of the main reasons we booked this cruise was because it was out of Galveston in the winter. I think that's what made it cheaper. We're also going to do another video about that. But yeah, we just couldn't find a lot of information about sailing out of Galveston. And so we're here to tell you our opinion.
The experience getting on the cruise at the cruise port was so vastly different to me because the experience in Florida is Disney is everywhere. From when you land in Orlando, Disney is everywhere.
Yeah, and it makes it so much more exciting. Whereas Galveston, like you don't even feel it until really you're on the boat.
It's not an official Disney cruise port, right?
Yeah.
So multiple different ships can use that cruise port.
Right. It's all portable signage, whereas the one in Port Canaveral is their dedicated port. They have a huge sign outside.
Right.
Everything inside is Disney themed.
Right.
This is, I think they only sail out of Galveston for part of the year, so all the signage is portable. There's nothing Disney themed inside, which is fine.
Yeah.
It's just as exciting you're getting on a Disney cruise.
Right.
That was one major difference.
Yeah. The speed, though, of it was maybe slightly faster, if not the same as Port Canaveral. We've had different experiences at Port Canaveral where sometimes it's been faster than others. This one, they had the timed bookings for when you needed to arrive, and we got there, in our time slot. And they were really strict about letting the certain people in at those times. So you didn't even get let into the building unless it was your time. So once we got into the building, it was basically just one thing after another, and we moved through security, we moved through the check-ins very, very quickly. Then you get into the big holding room, and we got to take a little bit of photos and footage there.
Yeah, that was one other difference I noticed was that at Port Canaveral, they have, if you've ever sailed before, you're automatically a Silver Castaway Club member. This one, I think they only had, it was either a gold and higher or platinum, but there was nothing for Silver Castaway members, which was different on the last one because it was like all Castaway Club members could go in this special line. So it was noticeably faster going in the Castaway Club line. This one didn't have that at all, so that was maybe one downside.
But their check-in desk was very big. And so the main line, I wasn't disappointed with how
meaning there was a lot of check-in people.
Yeah.
And then we got into the main holding room, and there was nothing Disney themed in there, I don't think.
Just some portable signage.
That was maybe the longest that we've had to wait, I think, in a big room full of people.
We had to sit there for 15 minutes.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
We decided to skip the photo getting on. We didn't do the photo package this time, so we just skipped that and went right onto the boat. And the walk onto the ship, again, all of that was so similar to what we've experienced at Port Canaveral. The primary reason that I think we booked this cruise is because it was so cheap.
Yeah.
And we don't exactly know why it's cheap. You just said maybe it's because it was out of Galveston, it was in the winter. We honestly don't know. But we found it on their discount cruises. And so that's primarily the reason we booked it. So. And
there were a lot of people on the cruise from Texas, so you could tell that it wasn't as much of a destination as like maybe people go to the parks and then get on the ship. So maybe that's why it was a little bit cheaper. It was also the smaller ship, which we're also doing a review of the Magic versus the Dream and Fantasy, which are larger ships. But as far as weather comparison between Galveston and Port Canaveral for this time of year, we did a sailing out of Port Canaveral the same time last year, and I thought the weather was the same.
The only chaotic part, this wasn't weather related, but when you got to the port, there were a lot of people that had just gotten off the ship and were waiting to get picked up. And initially when we got off our bus, which we can talk about our bus experience, but initially when we got off the bus, I was like, whoa, what are all these people waiting to actually even get on? It was a little bit chaotic because I didn't quite know, and looking around, it became obvious they're waiting to get picked up.
Right, and it's not like that at all at Port Canaveral. There's
No,
never
they're
been
gone.
anyone waiting outside.
Yeah.
So if you've never been on a cruise before or you've never been to that port, it will be a little bit overwhelming, and you'll be like, where am I supposed to, like, what am I supposed to do? I don't,
Right.
you know,
So
until you figure out that those people are leaving.
yeah, I was like, all right, let's just go talk to the person closest to the door, the employee.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time you got there, it became obvious that, again, all these people were waiting to get picked up. You clearly saw the line to get in, which was empty.
Mm-hmm.
And we showed our time and were able to go right in. So,
Right. But when you have 2,000 or 3,000 people getting on a cruise ship, the system probably shouldn't be that everyone needs to go talk to the one employee at the door
Yeah.
to figure out what to do.
Right. Getting to the port. So this was probably
The worst part of our experience.
the worst part of the experience. Not the bus ride itself.
Yeah.
The bus ride itself is about 90 minutes from the Marriott Hotel that is connected to the IAH George Bush International Airport. That's where you pick up the Disney Cruise Line transfer, which we had booked through our
Travel
agent.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're like, okay, that's Disney themed. This is going to be the easiest way. The bus ride was fine, clean, safe, whatever. The driver is nice. That whole experience was, as expected.
Mm-hmm. If you've ever been on a Disney Cruise Line transfer bus in Port Canaveral, the whole bus is a Disney Cruise Line bus. This wasn't that. This was a coach bus. Yeah. So again, related to landing in Orlando Airport and everything's immediately Disney, this is not like that. It's not really Disney until you step on the boat, really.
Right. Getting to the bus. That was the hardest
It was a saga.
thing. That was the hardest thing. We had very little information.
Yeah. And we've done this 4 times before, so it's like
Yeah.
we feel like we have good experience for the whole system.
Yeah. But we flew into IAH. We followed the signage to get our baggage, took the airport shuttle right over to the Marriott Hotel, go to the Marriott, we check in. This is the night before, and now we're like, okay, we're gonna get food, we're gonna sleep, let's get the details about the bus, we'll be good. You'd think getting details about the bus wouldn't be that hard.
Yeah, it was only that night that I realized
We didn't really know.
our travel agent didn't tell us where to pick up the bus, what time.
Yeah.
We texted our friends that we were traveling with, and we were like, did she tell you guys what time? We ended up being on a Facebook group for our specific cruise. And so our friend asked in the group, like, does anyone know what time? And it turned out that there were multiple different times people were suggesting.
Well, and nobody knew. Nobody knew the right answer, and so we weren't alone in this.
Right. I ended up calling the front desk,
Yeah.
and they told me a time. And then on the Facebook group, it said a different time. So I called the front desk back and I said, is it this time? And she said, there's a paper that you can pick up at the front desk in the lobby.
It has all the details on it.
Right. And you would think a paper with written down information in black and white would make things clear.
Branded Disney Cruise Line.
It did not. It made it worse.
It gave us a third time. So 3 different places gave us 3 different times. Then I ended up speaking to a guy in the lobby who talked to another person at the front desk who gave them even a different time.
Right, who was sailing on the ship.
Same,
the guy.
same, going to the same cruise. So 4 different times, we had no idea when to be downstairs, where we were not doing the luggage pickup from our room. So where to take our luggage, when to get on this bus, we knew nothing.
Right, and so our final decision was we're going to be downstairs at the earliest time, obviously, because we don't want to miss the bus. And meanwhile, we're traveling with 4 adults and 4 kids. One of them is a baby. So we're like, I guess we just have to be downstairs with our luggage at 7:30 for breakfast?
Yeah.
Which is what we ended up doing. But you ran into a Disney Cruise Line employee, just luckily.
Yeah, so I went to the gym, it was like 6 a.m. and there was a bus there already taking people, and I'm like, what is going on? And it turned out that those were employees of the cruise that were going there. But with that came Disney Cruise Line representatives who were already stationed at a desk, who we were told they would be there by 8 a.m. They were actually there at 6 a.m. And so I got to actually walk up to these ladies and explain this whole situation. They were so nice, so helpful. I explained everything we just said there. We got 4 different times, talked to the paper, and they just said, listen, be down here 8:30, I think is what they said. Bring your bags, you'll be good. Mm-hmm. And we had gone down for breakfast, and we were basically taking our time at that point. And when we saw one family start to go over there a little early, we thought, all right, let's just go get our bags, go put them on. And it ended up being fine after that, but that lobby became very
crowded. Yeah.
Everyone waiting there, everyone a little bit confused as to what was going on. Some people luggage in the room, some people luggage downstairs. They were spacing you out, which bus you got on, based on your port arrival time.
Right.
So our group, which had 2 families in it, were in 2 different port arrival times, so actually had to be separated for that. They had to stop at, didn't they have to
and pick up more people.
Pick up people at the airport, I believe. But we did not have to do that on the first bus. So once we got onto the bus again, that experience of getting to the port and everything we said about the Galveston port was totally fine. But that evening before was a little stress-inducing.
Yeah.
You think for a Disney experience, the information should have been easier to find and more accessible.
Yeah.
Overall, the cruise port experience was fine. It wasn't like it was bad. A lot of parts flowed very smoothly. And for me, I wouldn't necessarily book out of Port Canaveral just because I want the cruise experience. It would be because I'm going on a certain ship or a certain sailing, or we're going to Disney beforehand. Those are going to be the factors. You're not picking a cruise based on the port. But if you've never cruised out of Galveston, I think your experience will be fine. I think make sure you do your research on things like when do I catch a bus, especially if you're going out of that Marriott hotel at IAH. And I think your experience is going to be great because you're getting on a Disney cruise. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, and again, we have so many pros of what we loved about sailing out of Galveston, especially in January. First time on the Disney Magic, which we also loved. And so we're going to be doing another video about that. So make sure that you stay tuned for that video.
Yep. Get subscribed. We'll see you in the next one.
Bye.